Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
This is a special treat. We actually had your producer in the studio a couple months ago. Michael Flanders was in the studio, and he just raved about you. And I said, okay, we've got to get this girl. He says, well, she's in Australia. Yeah, okay, well, we'll figure it out. And fortunately, you came to Nashville, Tennessee, and we have you in the studio here today. Lily Grace is joining us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, this is wonderful. Now, were you here for CMA Fest?
I was. It was crazy busy, but unbelievable. So many amazing acts.
Yeah, I think I read 260 acts over 4 days performed downtown Nashville.
Ridiculous,
Were
right?
you one of those?
I wasn't. I had a little gig at the Row on Nashville, but I wasn't in the actual festival. Hopefully next year.
Yeah, but you got an opportunity to go around and see
Oh,
the
yeah.
Was this your first time to CMA Music Fest?
It was. And a lot of the artists, they don't actually come to Australia touring. And so I'd never seen them live, but I've been listening to them on YouTube, social media, Spotify for the past 4 or 5 years. And I got to see them live, which was amazing. Like Maddie and Tay, Kelsey Ballerini, just some of my all-time favorites, which is a real treat.
When you say you've been following these artists on YouTube for the past 4 or 5 years,
yeah.
Let's clarify, first of all, you're only 16 years old.
Yeah.
So you're still relatively young in this game.
Mm.
When did you start realizing that you wanted to be a singer-songwriter and this is what you wanted to do in your life?
I started out very much as a hobby when I was 10, and I started singing, playing guitar. I was really terrible at it at the time. I just didn't have many skills, and I went busking to the local markets, etc., etc. Every weekend, every Sunday, I showed up with my little guitar, and I busked. We're singing cover songs and everything. And then we went down to the Groundwater Country Music Festival, which is Australia's biggest country festival. And I was lucky enough to be chosen out of 500 buskers to perform on main stage in the top 10. I was 12 and I had to get in front of 5,000 people that night on main stage. And just with that, I met so many cool people like Aussie icons like Troy Casadale and everything. They were our next door neighbors in the hotels, and they were coming in, knocking on the door and saying, hey, great work, keep it up. Initially, it was kind of the whole community that drew me to country music. Everyone was so lovely and nurturing to the new ones coming through. And now I'm just in love with the sound. I love making the music, performing it. And I'd say, I don't know exactly that if it's what I want to do. It definitely is what I want to do, but I don't know if there's a moment when I really knew it. I've kind of always been doing it and just fall more in love with it as I continue to persist.
Musical influences. You obviously mentioned some of the artists you got to see here in the States. Were there particular Australian artists that you growing up that you just aspired to at least maybe listen to, if not maybe emulate and become?
Absolutely. There are so many of them. And the funny thing about it is that I'm working with a lot of them now. And like Tania Kernaghan, Amber Lawrence, Britt, she was in Nashville for a while actually, and James Blundell. I've loved their music since I was little. And now I get to do shows with them and write songs with them and everything, which is just unbelievable because they're kind of who I idolize, who I see as stars. And they're just incredible people, and totally.
The music scene between Australia, and you're from the Gold Coast of Australia,
yeah,
versus, say, Nashville, Tennessee, or Austin, Texas. How different is that?
It's really different. I'd say country music is a bit more of a niche genre in Australia.
Okay.
By that I mean, my kids at my school, I'm like, I play country music, and they go, ew, country music? That's gross. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they'll literally start singing like a Keith Urban or Morgan Evans song, and I'm like, that is country music. They go, that's not country. I'm like, it's country song. And they go, really? I'm like, yeah. I'd say that there's kind of a stigma against it in some ways in Australia. The whole community that support it are amazing. They are very, very loyal people. They come to shows, they get a group together, they make t-shirts, and they're amazing. But in general, I'd say that it's quite a specific, very, targeted group of people who it really appeals to. And here, we've only been here a week. Everyone loves country music. I've been in Nashville, I went to Kentucky, West Virginia, we were in San Francisco, and our way over here. And like on the planes, there's literally country music playing. And I was like, that is crazy. The radio, country music. And like in Nashville, everyone's in boots and it's young people who are loving country. And I was like, this is really cool because it's totally different to back home. I just think it's very good that people, really, it's a mainstream genre here, absolutely. In Australia, it's more kind of rock and pop, and that's definitely the difference.
I find that interesting because when you look at Australia from my perspective, and let me preface that by saying Australia is actually one of our largest listening audiences on the podcast. And they definitely rank in the top 4 or 5 of nations that listen to the show. So we have a lot of Aussie fans. So thank you for listening and supporting us. But Australia is known for its outback. I mean, coming from someone who lives in the United States, who lives in Nashville, Tennessee, we think of Australia. And then, of course, you have cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Adelaide, Canberra, Brisbane. Hope I didn't leave anybody out there. You're kind of known for just the wild, wild west that we no longer have here, or not nearly as much. So I find it interesting that country is almost a niche. Yeah. Now, leading up to that, do you find that country music is growing in Australia? Is it gaining an audience? Is it gaining traction? Yeah,
I think it definitely is. And a lot of the kind of country music community, I'd say, is more traditional kind of styles, which is great, but that's not really what I play. I play kind of contemporary, more modern kind of style. I'd say more Nashville country. And what's definitely growing is a lot of the music is coming from America. Like one of the big stations over in Australia, they play 80% American music. And I was like, really? In Australia? Which is just like, I think that's crazy to think about, but definitely growing. Like I know a lot of people who love Luke Combs and they love, Morgan Evans, Keith Urban, Morgan Wallen, and country festivals are kind of coming out at the moment with like fresh country music, which I think is really cool because they're these artists who surfaced only, 5-8 years ago, and they're headlining it to like 50,000 people, which is unbelievable because, a little while ago that was more traditional acts and stuff, and it's kind of coming through as more modern. I reckon a lot of young people are coming through now. Even when I started a little while ago, I'd say the crowds were a bit older and they're kind of getting younger, which I think is a good thing because it models my music as well, which is probably works for me. But totally, I reckon more people are coming to country music in Australia, and it's definitely lifting a little bit of the stigma, which is, in my opinion, a really good thing.
Obviously, Keith Urban, who is internationally known as a country artist, comes from Australia, but has lived here in Nashville for several years now. Had he made a name for himself there before he came here, or was the move to the States, and I'm leading up to a question with that, okay. But was he successful in Australia as a country artist, or did he have to come to the States to be successful? And I guess maybe it's 2 different levels of success.
Exactly. It depends kind of what you consider successful. He was playing, it was before my time, but I've spoken to a lot of people about this, and they were like, Keith was playing, pub gigs and stuff, and everyone was in the crowd, like loved it. Everyone was digging him. He won a competition called Star Maker, which is this big Australian country music competition, and they choose a winner every year. They give them a car, a guitar, and they send them to country festivals all around the country, doing radio, press, everything for a year. And he was a winner of that. So that definitely gave him a bit of a push, but I wouldn't say he was a household name or anything, or any drawing strong crowds on his own. If it was, it would have been like, 200 people or not like
Right.
nothing to compare to what he is now.
Yeah.
But now everyone goes, oh my gosh, Keith Urban. Yeah, that's our Aussie. He's drawing like, 25,000 when he comes back to Brisbane and stuff. That's like not a thing. You kind of, there's no independent headliners that are Australian. Like Aussie artists that stayed in Australia that is drawing 25,000 people. They're kind of American acts or Australians who've gone to America and then kind of come back. So I think it's definitely the US has kind of boosted him completely, and he's got a very big audience in Australia now, but he definitely didn't have the kind of size of that before he left.
So let's talk about you, because that's why we're here. You come to the United States. Did you have any expectations when you got off the plane? Did you have any ideas of what you were looking for? Or was this kind of an open book for you, especially when you sat foot in Nashville?
It's been a very long process preparing for this trip, and most things have been booked in quite a while in advance. And for me, primarily this trip is a songwriting trip, and it's songwriting and recording and writing lots of good music. I think I've got 34 songwrites booked while I'm here.
Wow, 34.
Yeah, so a lot of songwriting, and they were just booked in, 2 months ago. And I knew who I was going to write with, where I was writing, and it's at 11 a.m. So it's been very, structured. But a lot of things are also kind of popping up as we're here, which is really exciting. And my team, I was like, come on, guys, we don't have co-writes on 8 days while I'm here. Why can't we book in some more kind of thing? I'll call someone, we'll book some more in. They were like, no, just leave yourself some space because you're going to need it when you get here. And I'm glad I listened to them because I was very stubborn and I was digging my heel in. And I was like, come on, we're coming to Nashville. But it's a really good thing because we actually flew into West Virginia on our way in, and I had the most amazing weekend. We played with some friends of mine, the Davison Bros, and we played to 10,000 people on Friday night, and they have a tour bus and everything. So I was just living it up. I've never been in one before because they're not a thing in Australia.
Oh, okay.
Nah, they don't have them. And so we were in the tour bus, jamming with them. And then we did 2 shows with them. They were unbelievable. And then we came into Nashville, and I've got some rounds booked in and everything. And it's really cool because I meet someone. They're like, oh, would you like to come jump up and sing a song with me? I'm like, yeah, sure. Or let's write again while you're here. So the calendar is filling up. And I've only had 3 co-writes since I've been here. And I've already booked in another 3 more. So it's going to be pretty busy. But I'd say, yeah, it definitely is. I didn't have any expectations. We kind of knew what was coming. I'm meeting some really cool people, which is exciting. I kind of knew it was a writing trip, and then at the end we'll choose our best songs. So, yeah.
In the studio with us here today in Nashville, Tennessee, all the way from the Gold Coast of Australia, Lily Grace.
Hey y'all, this is Sarah Fleschner with 362 Entertainment, and you're listening to The Business Side of Music with Bob Bender.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Hi everyone, I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right, everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena, and believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics. All written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message.
As a musician, you have a dream, that vision of what success looks like for you. Though it's not only about the money, money is part of it. Whether you've been extremely successful or you're just striving to maintain a regular cash flow, you need a plan. Money Concepts can help you develop a customized plan to achieve the financial stability and success you want. For over 40 years, Money Concepts has been providing holistic financial planning services to individuals, families, and business owners. As an independent firm, Money Concepts and their associates are committed to always represent the best interest of the client. It's really about a committed, benevolent interest in them personally. This independence, coupled with that committed, benevolent interest, means they represent you, the client, not a product supplier. It's not about selling products, it's about helping you achieve success. To learn how this can benefit you, contact my buddy, John Adams, with Money Concepts at 737-867-9309. That's 737-867-9309. You can also email John at jadams@moneyconcepts.com.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, sitting across the table from me, Lily Grace is joining us from the Gold Coast of Australia. You're working on a project. I mean, you're talking about that you're writing songs, and you have all these songwriting sessions taking place. Putting an album together?
Can't tell you that. I'm working on, I love writing.
You're working on something, though.
Yes, I am. I've been writing since I was about 13, and the cool thing about this is there's so many cool people to collaborate with. And in Australia, I'm a school student. I'm in high school. I've got 2 more years to go. And most of the Aussie songwriters I write with have full-time jobs and they can't write in the daytime. So for the last kind of 3-4 months, all my songs have been written with Nashville songwriters at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. And I'm up
because of the big time change,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And it's because I can do it before school, and then I can go to school, have my day, do my homework when I get home, and go to bed early. It's really cool because I haven't actually written much in person with people because I started writing over COVID and that was all on Zoom. And Australia is very spread out. It's not like Nashville where every songwriter and musician is in the same place. It's, you're 6-7 hours away from someone. So I've only ever really written over Zoom, and it's a totally different experience. But just working on making some really good music of things I really want to say as an artist. And then I do hope to release that over the next year, 18 months.
Let's talk about that for a moment. What you're writing.
Mm-hmm.
What are those songs about? Are those your life experiences? Are those stories that you're sharing? Let's go down that path for a minute.
Yeah, sure thing. I'd say a lot of it is kind of about stuff that's relevant to me.
Yeah.
And I'm 16, so that stuff is teenage stuff. It's stuff my friends are going through, stuff I'm going through, my family, or things I see, at school, scenarios, etc. I kind of always say experiences I experience and experiences my friends experience, because totally relatable to a lot of people as well. I'm only young, but I think a lot of those are very versatile and worldwide to everyone, which makes them more relatable. Yeah, just writing heaps of songs about things that really feel honest and true to me, which is really something that's important to me.
When you talk about the songwriters in Australia versus the songwriters, say, here in Nashville, is it different? Besides that you're 6 or 7 hours in doing Zoom versus you're doing it in person. Is the songwriting technique or the songwriting sessions, do they come across as being different, or is it pretty much the same?
Yeah, I'd probably say so. To be honest, the Nashville songwriters a lot of them are really hit songwriters, which is kind of scary, but really cool as well. I was writing with Steve Dean the other day, and he's had like 6 number ones or something crazy. In Australia, the people I write with aren't as credited as songwriters, but still brilliant songwriters. For these kind of writes, it's a lot of pressure to be good. And I kind of have been spending a lot of time preparing for them all. I'll have an idea, I'll have where I want the song to go, a melody, chords, everything kind of prepared before I go in, because I don't want to stuff it up. I don't want to seem like this young kid from Australia who's just, getting into these cool writes. But I'd say it's kind of different in the approach. You guys, what I've seen so far, the people I've been writing with, I normally write with another singer-songwriter who plays guitar and sings. And here it's like a 3 or 4 way write, and there's a lyricist, there's a guitar player, and then a melody writer, then there's me. And it's a whole kind of different combination of skills to plug into, which is really cool because you can kind of use everyone's strengths and just totally build a better song, which is unbelievable. So that's probably the difference between the Aussies and Americans.
When you talk about those different components.
Yes.
Do you see yourself more as the lyricist, or do you see yourself as the one who just, I don't know, the meat and the potatoes of the song, working on the melody? Where do you fit into that formula?
I like to think I'm a very good melody writer, I love coming up with concepts and ideas for the songs because, I mean, if I'm going to release them as an artist, I want them to be something that I want to say. I think that's really important because if you go into a write and say, let's just write a song that's really fun, and then it's about something that isn't really something you want to say as an artist, you're probably not going to release that song, probably not going to relate to it.
Absolutely.
So I spend a lot of time working out concepts of things that I really, want to write songs about, and then creating melodies that I think are fun and catchy before I actually go into the write.
Did you have any formal training learning how to do that, or was this when you were busking about in Australia?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say I've had any formal training. I've done some courses and stuff here and there, but nothing really formal. I've been writing for a while though. I've written about 300 songs. So I'd probably say it's practice and just, trying to learn from other people I've worked with.
When you were over in Australia doing your performances, a lot of that really was you were just trying to support yourself as a musician, right?
Yeah.
Getting started here.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that helped define who you are, especially when you came to the States and you had to start working with these other songwriters?
Yeah. Are you talking about busking on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely say so. I mean, busking is a tough gig. You have to smile at everyone and you put on a show completely. And I think that's really important though, because you have to make sure your songs are good, that you are confident and that you know who you are, because people will snarl at you and people will, give you dirty looks while you're singing. And, sometimes you'll busk for like an hour and no one will give you any tips and you're like, oh, am I not good or anything? So I think it's a very important thing to know that, I'm confident in who I am. I am happy that I sound how I sound and know that before you go out there. And I reckon that's really important coming here because obviously I'm writing with some big people and Nashville is music city. There's everyone who's anyone and there's so much talent here. If you're not really confident in yourself, you could definitely kind of lose track and feel intimidated, feel lesser than all these other people. So yes.
Were you doing original material when you were busking, or were you doing cover tunes, or a combination of both?
Yeah. When I originally started, it was just covers. I was 12 and I knew like 6 songs. As I kind of worked up towards everything, it became originals and covers for busking gigs.
Yeah. What was that like to be 12 years old and know 6 songs?
It was funny because the rule at the markets was every 20 minutes you had to leave and find a new spot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why I only needed 6 songs. And I would do my 6 songs over and over again, then move 20 minutes up the road, sing those songs again and come back and go back and come back again because some of the buskers, I was one of them, wasn't very good. So you had to keep moving along if the stallholders didn't like you. It was hilarious because I had my little guitar and I was carrying it from one spot to the other, moving literally 2 meters down the road. Didn't make a difference at all, but it was really funny.
Here in Nashville, especially when you walk up and down Lower Broadway, I mean, we don't have as many street musicians as we used to because now they're all in the honky-tonks. Have you had the opportunity to experience that at this point, to see all the different musicians and singer-songwriters playing in the bars and the honky-tonks on Lower Broadway? Yeah,
we actually went for a walk literally just before this. There is so much music there. It's unbelievable. Every bar has 2 or 3 musicians on each level and they're all playing. And the thing about that is they're all requests, which I think is really funny because that's not a thing back home. People are kind of, saying, oh, here, I'll give you a tip if you play my song, which must be a difficult gig, but they're very talented to pick it up without knowing the song, just giving it a go, searching it up and doing it. I think that's a real skill.
What a lot of people don't realize also is that when you talk about those 2 or 3 or 4 musicians on stage, they typically don't play together on a regular basis.
No.
So one person may go to this bar, one person may go to that bar, and they just say, hey, we're going to do this song. Okay, what key is it in? And let's do it.
Exactly.
But they sound like they've been playing forever together.
It's crazy because I saw there was a band on. There was a drummer, a bass, guitar, and a guy singing. And everyone was they literally had 6 requests during one song. People just were loving it. And these guys had the singer had an iPhone with lyrics, but no one else had things. Imagine if you didn't even know the melody of a song, trying to get up there and sing it for them. That's just a crazy thing to think about.
Right. But that's how it is here in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah. In the studio with us today here in Nashville, Tennessee, Lily Grace.
Hi, this is Jeremy Stevens with High Fidelity. You're listening to The Business Side of Music, the most listened to music industry podcast in some of the better parts of town.
Some of the better parts of town. That is funny.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Whether you consider yourself a musician or not, music is all around us, and it affects our everyday lives. Whether it's background music influencing our shopping habits in a store, organ music adding the vibe to a baseball game, or a playlist convincing us to keep going on that last mile of a run. I'm Mindy Peterson, host of the podcast Enhance Life with Music, where we take a holistic look at music's benefits through the lens of science and medicine, entertainment, and business. You can find me and Enhance Life with Music at mpetersonmusic.com/podcast or wherever you get your audio.
Since 1963, Korg has been creating new experiences in music and performance. That is what drove the creation of some of Korg's most legendary products, such as the Poly 6, the M1, the Electribe, the Triton, the Minilog, the Kronos, Wave State, Op 6, and most recently the Nautilus, which is what we have here in our studio. Korg is dedicated to creating new, innovative, and uncompromising instruments which maintain the highest quality to inspire music makers, past, present, and future. Visit Korg.com or your favorite Korg dealer to get your hands on one of their products and start creating new music always. Korg, the official sponsor of the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, all the way from the Gold Coast of Australia, Lily Grace is with us. You've put some songs out and have had some success with them. Let's talk about that for a moment. How did that all come about?
Yeah, I've been writing for a while, as I was saying earlier, and I was always very hesitant to put out my own music. I was like, I'm going to regret putting this out if I don't like the song, because it's always out there. But I met this guy named James Blundell back in Australia. James is a platinum artist. He's just an absolute Aussie icon. And that's kind of how I released my first song. It was through him, and it was the opportunity of a lifetime. We put this song out together and toured it. It was called Annie June, and everyone was like, how are you 15 getting this collaboration with a platinum artist? That's unbelievable. And unbelievable it was.
But how did that happen?
Yeah. I met him through a mutual friend of mine. I'm not sure, I'm going to use names, but you might not know them because you're American. But Tania Kernaghan is a very prominent artist in Australia. And I'd supported a show with her about 3 months before this, and she called me up and she's like, hey Lily, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm good, Tania, what's going on? And she's like, I'm playing a show with me and James Blundell and we're looking for a support slot. Would you like to take it? And I was like, yeah, sure thing, I'll do that. Unfortunately, about a month later, we hadn't announced the show yet, but Tania goes, I'm sorry, I can't do the show anymore. I've got some other commitments on that date. And I was like, oh, okay. I'd already met James at that point though, and he gave me a ring and he's like, do you still want to go ahead? And I was like, yeah, totally, let's do it. And he was like, okay, well, if Tania's not here, do you want to step up to the co-headliner position with me? And I was like, yeah, I mean, if you insist. So I was here like 15 co-headlining a show with James Blundell, which is unbelievable. And he was the nicest guy. We became really good friends, him and his whole family and my family. We wrote a song together. It was called Annie June. And we were doing some radio interviews the morning of the show, some press, some newspaper kind of stuff. And we were just playing that song for it. And I was like, I really like this song. He goes, yeah, me too. Let's release it. And I was like, together? He goes, yeah, sure thing. So we did that. And it was just like a crazy story, a crazy way to start your career as well with, it did so much good for me. And I had the best time releasing it.
That's kind of serendipity is what I would call it. It's being in the right place at the right time and just kind of all the stars aligning. Since then,
yes,
are things like that still falling into place for you? You still getting music out there, getting airtime?
Yeah, I am. Aussie radio has been amazing at playing my music and having so many interviews, which is crazy. And just on that real quick, it's quite funny. I'll share you a little funny story. Because I'm a school student, I have to be at school, obviously. I have all these radio interviews at school time, and sometimes my teachers don't let me go. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? I'm meant to be on air. I can't just cancel. So I literally run out of class. I'm like, I need to go to the bathroom, and I'll go find a bush or something, and I'll sit there with my phone on air. And there was this lady, and it was a 40-minute interview. And my teacher...
40 minutes.
40 minutes. I had a substitute teacher, and she just did not like me. She was just... who do you think you are to try and leave my class? And I was like, I'm sorry, but what do you want me to do? I left. I came back 40 minutes later and she was like, where did you go? You kind of just disappeared for 40 minutes. And I was like, I'm so sorry, miss. I just got so lost. And she was like, absolute no.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. But yeah, I've been having a really good time with it, putting songs out, just sharing music, filming music videos, everything, all the things. It's doing really well for me as well, which is exciting.
How much longer are you going to be in Nashville?
I'm here for 7 weeks. So I've been here for about a week and a half now.
Yeah.
So about, 5.5 more.
Right. And during that time, what are you hoping to get accomplished?
I want to write a lot of good songs that I'm really proud of. And I also want to meet a lot of cool people. I've just met so many amazing people already going to writers' rounds and watching people play or singing one song or so. And you meet like 10, 15 amazing writers, fun people. I just want to meet some really cool people, people who are obviously a bit important for my career as well, and just write and write and write.
Are we going to hear music out of you here on the radio in the States?
Yeah, definitely. My last song was my first release to US radio, and that was cool. I think it's sitting at number 78 on the Music Row chart at the moment. So it's just broken in, which is exciting. I'm hoping it'll keep climbing. That's been quite funny, actually. Because
and what's the title of that one?
The Two of Us Meet. That's what it's called.
Okay.
It's been quite funny because the radio interviews are at ridiculous hours, like 9 p.m. or 1 a.m. And I'm like in my bedroom, my little night lights on, and I'm doing this interview with someone in America. It's hilarious.
How's the response been?
It's been good.
I mean, you're climbing the charts. We have a tendency to be a bit fickle when it comes to music. Do you find the fans embracing you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have quite a strong social media following on Facebook and Instagram. And the cool thing about that is that there's so many people on there that are from America. And they've been following me for a while. And at the West Virginia show, we actually got to meet some of the people who had followed me on Instagram and Facebook. And I was like, that's really cool. I've never been here and you're here at the show, which is sick. But yeah, we went and met some of the stations as well. And they were just amazing at being supportive. We gave them some CDs and we got to meet them in person because they've been supporting my music. And I haven't met many of the listeners who have been listening to the stations yet, but I want to book some more shows and then hopefully get out there and actually meet them in person.
Once you get whatever it is that you're doing that you can't talk about, do you plan on coming back to the States and touring?
I'd love to do that. I don't know if I'm in a place to do that yet, but I definitely want to come back to Nashville again. I know that for sure. And I would love to come back to America. And I just love how country music is such a big thing here. You guys really embrace it, which I love. It's definitely on my list of goals and things I want to do. So hopefully.
And how can they find you? You talk about your social media.
Yes.
So how can people find you?
My social media is Lily Grace Live, Lily Grace Live on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, wherever you're on. That's my tag.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Fuson.